there is one central issue here. Any economic activity is undertaken by a citizen in anticipation of creating a surplus. A modern economy is different from a subsistence economy in the cave age because we create a surplus. Whatever you do, a farmer, a barber, a surgeon, a school teacher, an industrialist, if she produces only for herself, then it's a subsistence economy. If she produces by specialization more than she can consume and therefore is willing to sell, then you have Ricardo's theory of comparative advantage in operation. You have better produce at low cost, better quality, in larger quantity, everybody is a gainer. And if the farmer therefore cannot sell at a decent price, if the policies are not geared to promote free market, and in case of farmers actually we must go even beyond free market, we must actually protect the farmer because all over the world farming is recognized as a very tenuous occupation. It's a very fragile occupation. Farm sector always has several problems. It is subject to natural vagaries. You can never be certain about the production tomorrow. It's a biological product. And when it is produced, if you don't give them a decent income, then they cannot sustain themselves in times of adversity. And certainly agriculture will be always a distant country cousin. They'll always be suffering. We cannot afford that. Therefore, the central issue today in the country is pricing. Now, pricing is decided how? One, by barriers like this. You are artificially preventing people from storing, from transporting, from selling, and from buying. And therefore, you are not allowing a free market to develop within the country, outside the country. Ideally, wherever there is good price, you must be able to sell without any restriction whatsoever. But at the same time, each country protects its own farmers within reasonable limits. And the WTO agreement provides for that, particularly for poor countries. India is doing exactly opposite. We are not allowing our farmers to have access to international or national markets freely. We are restricting their trade. We are forcibly procuring at an artificially low price under various procurement laws and Essential Commodities Act, and we are depressing the farmer's price and income. But even when there is import, we are not protecting the farmer. You take, for instance, the cooking oil. India imports the largest amount of cooking oil in the world, 50%, 9 million tons, mostly from Southeast Asian countries. India does not impose even 1% customs duty. And the exporting countries are actually now imposing export duty because they know whatever be the price, India will anyway buy. They are making money out of it as countries. They are getting revenue. If they impose even a small tariff, even a small import duty, and if that money is transferred to the oil seeds producers, like for instance groundnut, oil palm, other oil seeds in the country, then you can actually encourage, stimulate oil seeds production and therefore oil production. India would be independent and all the money would go to farmers' hands, not to foreign farmers. We have exactly the wrong policies. You take produce like cotton, time and again at will we ban exports. Sometimes against higher price in the international market we actually import, and therefore the farmer's price is always suppressed, even when there is good production. Or take fruits and vegetables. Despite the government collecting huge amounts of taxes, in case of rice alone in Andhra Pradesh, the government collects 2,000 crores taxes of various kinds. Plus they collect another 600 to 700 crore rupees, market cess every year in Andhra Pradesh alone. That money is not going to build up the market, not going to build infrastructure for marketing, not going to build warehousing and storage, not going to build the value addition capacity, processing in case of perishable commodities so that the price can be stabilized and the farmers can get a decent price. So in every which way, the government's intervention when it is there is detrimental to the farmers' interests. And wherever they can help the farmers, the government is abdicating. It's only harassing, it's only hurting the farm sector and agriculture. And we have to change the government policies substantially. Until that happens, farmer in India is not safe, no matter how much he produces. Production will automatically improve if there is a price advantage. Once there is a price incentive, once there is a profit incentive, the farmers know how to produce, and the other support services will automatically come in. The central issue is the price and price and pricing policies. And that must be addressed. But for each crop, there is obviously a different kind of an approach. The import-driven crops, the market-restricted crops, the perishable commodities. We have to look at each commodity and find answers. And these are the answers which every country in the world has found. Only in India, the farm sector is deliberately and cruelly neglected and suppressed. In fact, the Economist newspaper in 1991 It said if Indian politicians and policymakers, they have conspired in 1947 to destroy Indian agriculture and the farmer, they could not have done a better job. Obviously, the governments in India and the parties, they have not set out to destroy agriculture, but the net result of their policies is nothing but destruction of agriculture and villages of India. We must at least at this late hour change this. Otherwise, we'll have a serious crisis which will further deepen and destabilize India and undermine our economy.
Now, it appears that the cost of, one of the main reasons for this crisis is that the cost of cultivation has been going up quite rapidly while the price offered is not commensurate with
No, even the cost of cultivation is largely driven by government policies. You take Employment Guarantee Act. Even in areas where there are agricultural operations going on, even when there is no unemployment in rural areas, they have extended it universally, whether it is Konasema in Andhra Pradesh or Punjab, fertile Punjab, or the dry areas where there is no real agricultural occupation for the bulk of the agricultural laborers. You extended it massively. And therefore, there is actually a shortage of labor, and therefore, the labor costs have gone up dramatically in agriculture. For instance, in case of sugarcane, the farmer gets about 1,900 to 2,000 rupees per ton. And on one day, only the cutting and transport cost per ton, they are costing about 700 rupees. The farmer is at a great disadvantage. You can see it everywhere. Similarly, because of the government's restrictive policies that I explained, the prices are depressed. And because the government's control of fertilizers, very artificially, the prices are rising. So input costs are rising by the government, are increasing because of government policies, and the government's extension machinery has completely collapsed. It's become corrupt and exploitative and inefficient. If the farmers are learning and improving production, it's only because they're learning from other farmers, not from agricultural extension machinery or the government. It's become a white elephant. So the government has become the enemy, not the friend of the farmers. That's the tragedy. And after all this, if the farmers somehow manage to produce, there is no infrastructure to take care of post-harvesting facilities. And if after overcoming in those hurdles that the farmers are willing to sell and get a decent price, the government policy is calculated to cruelly suppress the price. So it's a disadvantage to farmers everywhere. It's almost as if the government is fighting the farmers. The farmer has one enemy, the government in this country. That must be changed.
Now, do you think it's also possible to actually try reducing the cost of cultivation, for instance, through mechanization or technology adoption?
We must go in for massive mechanization. We must go in for more innovative mechanisms of extension so that the technology is spread to the farmers much more easily. We must have a more rational fertilizer policy based on competition and choice and rational use of fertilizers so that the farmer actually gets good value instead of wasteful use of fertilizers. And instead of wasteful subsidies going to inefficient industries in the name of the farmer, we have to change the way subsidies are administered. We have to do many things. But having said all these things, if there is a price advantage, if there is an open market, if the farmer has access to knowledge, if there is freedom and fairness, then the farmer knows best. The government does not have to become the father and mother of the farmer. The government has failed in doing so. If the government does the right thing in providing an open market and providing honest services to the farmers, then the farmer does best. They know what is best. We don't have to worry about it. Now, until we do that, the farmer and Indian agriculture are in deep distress.
So, in the process of advocacy for these reforms for benefiting farmers, how do you think people here or abroad, like people for Lok Sabha?
Well, people for Lok Sabha, the PFL group or NRI supporters or the farmers, irrespective of political persuasion, all of you have come from rural background, or most of you at any rate. You understand the rural distress there. You have seen in the past 20 years how the farmers and their families have suffered relative to the rest of the economy and how this disparity is widening dramatically in this country. It's unsustainable, it is dangerous, it is socially destabilizing and debilitating. We have to end this nonsense now and today. What we can do is we have the answers. First, please understand the answers. Don't go by the traditional articulation of these problems and solutions. The market and the way the market is applied and protecting the farmer where necessary in a judicious manner and ensuring that both the farmer and the consumer are protected by compressing the market chain. These are the answers, and that's what the rest of the world has done. Once you understand, in case of paddy, for instance, please approach every single MLA in Andhra Pradesh. Please tell them that this policy must be changed. Please contact every minister, send emails, send letters, make phone calls, and tell them this policy is bad. Nowhere in the world do you have government policies to hurt their own farmers. Government policies to prevent India from emerging as an open market. Nowhere in the world do you have a situation where entirely because of government's restrictions, the price on one side of the border is 200 rupees more than the price on the other side, or sometimes 2,000 rupees more than on the other side. This is nonsense, and this must be stopped. Please persuade these people, but don't stop at this. There are many things we have to do, as I explained. We have to systematically pursue them. For instance, in Telangana region, people depend largely on the agricultural market societies and the market yards. The market cess is collected, market yards are like graveyards. There's nothing happening to support the farmers, to help the farmers. If the farmers go there to sell their produce, they're treated as beggars. Oftentimes they're waiting there in cold or heat, or in rains or sunshine for 7 to 10 days to be able to sell the produce without any amenities. We're treating farmers, the proud producers of food grains, as cattle in an inhuman manner. This must stop. So we have a large number of ideas. We have a large number of movements planned, innovative movements, constructive movements with specific solution in mind to mobilize public opinion, to force the government to change its ways. Please stand by, please support, please propagate this message, and please spread the word. And let us fight to change this quickly, because it's easy to deliver, because people in the country increasingly have begun to understand the damage done to the farm sector. And even politicians, some of them realize the damage they're doing. And if we build the pressure, this is the right time to change the way agriculture is run in this country.